Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our eBacon 401k Enrollment Basics webinar. We're happy to have you here. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that they're on mute, but we absolutely hope to have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So in your little menu bar, you have the ability to type in a question. And so please, by all means, type in your questions. And if we're not able to answer it live on the call, just for time constraints, someone will absolutely be following up with you directly in order to assist you. So first and foremost, my name is Laura Hill. I am the VP of Operations here at eBacon. On the call with me today, I have Akil Kassam. He's our Finance Operations Lead, specializing in 401k. And I also have Logan Merrick on the line with us, who is our Product Manager for our 401k product. In terms of our agenda, I'm going to briefly cover what a 401k is and mention a couple of the key benefits, and then really talk about why it's important to encourage your employees to enroll in a 401k. From there, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Logan, our product manager, who's going to spend some time reviewing tools in our eBacon product that will really help encourage the employee enrollment, along with reviewing a couple of key new and upcoming features. And then obviously we definitely want to have some time for a question and answer session based on the things that you guys are typing throughout the discussion. So what is a 401k? At a very high level, a 401k is a tax-advantaged, employer-sponsored savings account that basically enables employees to save and invest a portion of their checks now while they're working in preparation for their future retirement. You know, it's often considered a necessary benefit for workers. They're really looking for companies that are supportive of a 401k. And so in a highly competitive market where you're trying to attract and retain really key talent, having a 401k plan can really be a differentiator and make you a more attractive employer. And you know, while we often talk about the tax advantages that really impact an employee, there are absolutely advantages for employers as well. Plans can be structured in a variety of different ways, and so you really want to talk to your financial advisor to determine what structure offers the most benefits for your company. But certainly those tax savings are a key piece both for employees and employers alike. You know, from an employer perspective, you know, why should we encourage our employees to enroll in a 401k? We talked already about that it's a differentiator in the market. You know, for a 401k is a differentiator when you're trying to compete to hire your top talent, but it also can have a positive impact on your overall employee retentions. Employees who are making an investment in their future through a 401k may actually be less likely to move on to another company, in particular if their employers are making matching contributions to the 401k that adds to an employee's overall total compensation. We also want to ensure compliance. It's important to maintain all of those stringent requirements that are out there in the world today, and more and more states are mandating retirement savings plans to really help bridge that financial gap for when the employees are no longer working. And an employer-sponsored 401k plan actually meets that obligation. We also want to promote an employee's financial wellness. You know, the convenience of having the contribution taken out during your payroll processing makes it really seamless for employees to go ahead and save. And these savings compound themselves over time, which obviously makes a huge difference in growing wealth for every individual. We also want to take advantage of those taxable income advantages. So not only candidly are there tax savings for employees, but the employer also has multiple tax advantages that they can take care of, or they can take advantage of and leverage as well. When employees enroll in the 401k, it's really great for both parties involved. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Logan.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. So super excited to talk about all the features and functionality we bake into the 401k system here at eBacon. We're going to dive really deep into all the various tools and where you can find it in the software. But before we do that, wanted to go through really quickly, how can you encourage enrollment using the tools at your disposal through eBacon? So we're going to cover reports in depth, but one of the things we've actually built into eBacon.com is that you can monitor contributions in reports. So we'll go really in depth and granular as to like how much you can monitor contributions. But you can absolutely monitor how employees are contributing, where they're contributing, the percent that they're contributing in the existing reporting we have built today. Additionally, when you think about the ways that you can kind of encourage enrollment when employees are asking around 401k and how does 401k work and why is 401k important to me, one of the benefits we built into the enrollment screen is actually a retirement calculator. So you saw earlier that kind of like hockey stick type growth. Employees, and we have this tool built in, can go in and actually look at how their pay will grow over time for retirement. So that's a super powerful feature to be able to direct them to. Finally, one of the other pieces left side hand of the page here is it's actually as simple as directing them to the eBacon home screen. So, you probably speak with your CSR and your implementation folks about this, but our onboarding and enrollment process is baked into eBacon.com, and that includes the 401k enrollment process. So we'll cover this a little later, but it's actually when you go in to log in on the home page or clock in or clock out or do any sort of stuff in the eBacon website, it's as simple as clicking one link to be able to actually go enroll in your 401k. So there's no additional websites folks have to go to. When we talk about encouraging enrollment, it's as simple as actually just directing them to log into their accounts. There's banners and a few other pieces. So as part of logging on to the webinar, or even if you weren't here for the webinar, we wanted to share that we actually have PowerPoint as well as email templates for you to be able to use for employees. So while we do have a process that walks employees through on the website, if they wanted to be able to look at a PDF or a printable PowerPoint, we actually have a PowerPoint that walks them through the entire enrollment process and kind of what a 401k is. Additionally, if you're the types of folks who like to be able to shoot out a quick email to your employees, we've actually built an email template that you can utilize to be able to share that with folks on your team. So we'll share where you can get those a bit later in the PowerPoint, but you can reach out to Akil or other folks at 401k at eBacon. The final piece here is, the tax benefits that come with 401k. This is built into the enrollment screen. But there's many tax benefits that come with either contributing to a traditional retirement account or a Roth retirement account, as well as for certain income individuals within the company, there can be potential tax credits. Again, I encourage employees to consult with tax professionals when we get into some of the details, but there's a lot of tax benefits that are explained through the enrollment process. So Laura, if you could take us over to the next slide, we'll walk through and we can talk about kind of this employee enrollment. So when folks go to actually log in here at eBacon.com, there's a couple pieces where you'll find it. So if you want to encourage enrollment, one of the things you can tell folks as you bring on new employees is that enrolling in the 401k is actually as easy as logging in. So that red box up there in the upper right-hand corner, when they go to enroll in benefits, it will actually take them to the 401k screen. So they have the opportunity at time of onboarding to enroll. So you can tell folks when they onboard to the company, if you have new hires, go log in, and literally as you go to check out your benefits, your 401k will be there. The other piece is as they're logging in and where they go to look at their direct deposit, there'll actually be a button to click for 401k. So they can adjust or modify their 401k at any time. But the point here to emphasize is the most powerful tool for getting folks enrolled is just getting them to log in and check it out. So the most easiest, powerful tool you have is to be able to actually tell folks it's on your home page. Just go ahead and click into it and check it out, and we'll walk you through the process. If you want to get super granular, and again, you're a 401k nerd like me, we can talk about reports. Laura, if you could take us over to the next tool we want to talk about really quick. So I emphasized this earlier. There's a bunch of robust reporting eBacon provides as part of being your platform. A lot of folks on this call might be using it for their prevailing wage or to be able to monitor payroll. But 401k is actually built into that as well. So if you go into your reporting tab on the upper left-hand corner of your software, you'll actually find a folder labeled 401k. And these are off-the-shelf reports we've actually built for folks. So the report I'm showing over here on the right-hand side is a plan summary. And there's a bunch of different levels of granularity, but this report is particularly my favorite report because it actually shows which employees are enrolled and a breakdown of how much they're contributing, how much you're contributing, and actually where those contributions are going, and whether or not those contributions are making gains for those employees. So it's an extremely detailed look down to like the individual investments employees might have of where their 401k is at. There's a bunch of other reports you can hit on here as well. Really quickly on the left-hand side, you can see there's actually a history. So if you want to go through and look at your plan balance as a company and whether or not it's growing or shrinking along with the actual investments, we've got that broken out there, as well as the individual investments employees are contributing to. Now, I don't want to steal the thunder too much. You'll see this if you log into some of the next webinars we have in the series, but one of the other peers I have on the team is actually revamping some of the stuff with reports. So while you'll still have your off-the-shelf reports, these are only going to get even more robust for folks who want to really dig deep into what's going on in the 401k at an investment level in the coming months. Laura, if you can take us over to the next slide, I wanted to hit on this because we hear this a lot from administrators, is that when employees, if you have it as a feature as part of your 401k plan, they're really interested in actually how you can take loans out of the plan. And when employees ask for loans, how do I manage this? What does it look like? So wanted to hit on this really quickly. Loans are actually built into eBacon.com as well. You don't have to work directly with any of the folks on the operations team or Akil, although who doesn't love talking to Akil? One of the things you can actually do is if you go into eBacon.com and navigate to the company menu, under your 401k breakout, you could potentially create loans for folks or actually go in and actually monitor requests. So if you look down there at the bottom, it's as simple as clicking into there, clicking on the actions tab and being able to hit accept, and it'll provide all the requested information for that employee. So it's a really easy way when folks submit their loans to be able to go in and knock those out really quickly. Part of the exact same system you folks are using every single day. With that in mind, I think we've talked a little bit about these different tools, and I hit on reports a little bit, where if you really, really want to get into the meat and potatoes of 401k and look at all the good stuff that goes into investments and spend hours and hours looking at 401k, reports can let you do that, or it can give you a summary. But one of the things we're really excited to talk to you about, Laura, if you could take us over to the new and upcoming slide, drum roll please, is our revamped admin dashboard. So a few of you folks in the call might have seen this before. We wanted to expand access as well as revamp some of the stuff that goes on in the UI here in the next few weeks. But this is actually our most user-friendly way to monitor enrollment contributions and more. So like I said, you can find information in the reports tab, but one of the things that we heard from folks on the call who are administrators is, we really care about kind of these two things on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis, which is, are people enrolled in the plan, and then are they actually contributing? So this breaks it down. There's only 4 tabs. The one we've got on display here that I wanted to talk to you folks about is the employees tab, which it just shows a list of your folks in your company, how much they're contributing, and whether or not they've signed up for their 401k. So it lets you at a quick glance take a look at whether or not folks are participating in the plan and their level of participation. So this feature is going to be available, again, on eBacon.com. It'll be available under the company tab. And today we've released it to a few folks. But if you're interested in having this at your disposal, before we do a huge wide-scale rollout, email us at 401k@ebacon.com, and we can actually work with you to get this turned on. We would love your feedback for how you're using it with your employees and what we should potentially be looking at adding, subtracting, changing, all that kind of good stuff. So in a word, right, admin dashboard, really simple way of looking at it beyond having to look through and check out a lot of these reports, which again, for folks like me who live in this software every day, I love looking at the reports, but this is a super simple, quick 30-second view. Additionally, if you could take us over to the next one, when we talk about enrollment, we're also revamping the way we do auto enrollment. So for those folks on the call who know about it, Secure Act 2.0 was passed, and there's going to be some changes coming to new 401k plans. So with that in mind, one of the guidelines in Secure Act 2.0 was around how we auto-enroll clients. So as we prepared and kind of ramped up for this new federal guidance, we went under the hood and looked at how we do auto-enrollment. So the long and short of it is we've made it a lot easier for folks to be able to monitor auto-enrollment as well as log into auto-enrollment. So if folks are interested, we can actually turn it on for plans who have been at eBacon to actually have your employees auto-enrolled. Again, just reach out to 401k at eBacon.com, or you can reach out to me personally, Logan at eBacon.com, and we can talk to you about getting that set up on your plan. So for folks who have existing plans, that's fantastic. For folks whose plans actually started after December 29th of 2022, there will be a way that you're actually automatically enrolled in this coming year. But don't panic, don't worry, we've got your back. So one of the things that we'll be doing in the coming weeks is actually contacting folks who are going to automatically have auto enroll placed on their plan as part of Secure Act 2.0. So there'll be lots of guidance around how it's applied and when it's turned on and how we are going to communicate with your employees and how you could communicate with your employees about auto enroll if you're a applicable Secure Act 2.0 plan. And again, if you're like me and 401k makes your eyes light up, we're going to be hosting a Secure Act 2.0 and You webinar where we are going to be covering all about auto enroll along with the relevant federal guidelines and how you as a plan administrator can manage through Secure Act 2.0 if you want to get into a lot of the meat and potatoes and some of the complexities around Secure Act 2.0. So that's a lot of the stuff we've been thinking about as we've been thinking about auto enrollment as well as the revamped admin dashboard. The two of them fit together nicely in that once you have this new administrator dashboard, you'll be able to see really quickly at a glance who is actually enrolled and be able to monitor auto enrollment. There'll be additional software changes that come as part of auto enrollment that you'll see as well, and we'll be releasing in additional guidance and all the rest of that. But wanted to let you folks know that auto enrollment's coming. So if you can take us over to the last slide here, Laura, I think we're going to be opening it up here for Q&A, but wanted to hit on this really quickly. If you have questions coming off this call, or if you want more information around setting up or modifying your plan to include auto enrollment, you want to check out this new administrator dashboard before the full rollout, or you want more materials and guidance for your employees, all about 401k from a quick overview down to like the most complex details, please reach out to us at 401k at eBacon.com. You can reach me personally at Logan at eBacon.com. And with that in mind, I think we can open it up for some Q&A from folks on the call. Again, folks are muted, but there should be a chat functionality where you can pop those into the chat or you can shoot those out as questions for folks on the call. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Laura.
Thanks. We do have a question or two to go ahead and answer for you guys today, and then certainly we specifically left plenty of time so that we could make sure that we could answer whatever questions the rest of the audience has. So by all means, continue to put those questions into the chat for us, and we're happy to answer them. I think the first question was, what happens if an employee misses their initial enrollment period? A lot of people, a lot of employees think that they've missed their open enrollment and they didn't click on it right at the beginning. And what should we do? What do we need to know about that? So the answer is you can make those changes whenever you'd like to. There's really not all you can. There's not a lot of requirements or restrictions around when you can make the adjustments to your plan enrollment. And so even if they didn't enroll at the beginning of their onboarding period, they continue to have the opportunity to make those changes. Just simply, the employee just needs to go right back into the Viper application. You can click on the benefits with the widget is what we call it. That red box will not always be red. Sometimes it'll just say view benefits, and you can click in there and then click on the link for your 401k so that you can make changes. Additionally, on your main homepage, in your sort of demographics area, there's also additional link that is specifically for 401k. So right there where, it's talking about your name and all that information, there's a link for 401k that an employee can click there as well to get into their 401k. Similarly, dovetailing off of that particular question, there was another question regarding what happens if an employee wants to change their contributions or figure out what their investment dollars are and where their funds are going and all that kind of stuff. And so again, the same conversation. All of that information is available to every employee on their individual eBacon website. And so they just need to log into their profile, go to their 401k area, and they can adjust their elections. They can rebalance things and move some of their dollars around to make sure that everything is being aligned properly into the funds at the percentages that they had requested initially, and just continue to monitor all of that kind of stuff. I will tell you that, we often hear in the 401k world, we often hear that the most lucrative 401k retirement savings are those that are you set it and forget it, right? So the more you can put the money into the investment funds and let it just do the thing, typically that tends to perform better in the long run. And so that's just something that's, something to think about. You don't necessarily want to encourage or on a personal level go in and not change all of those elections all the time, but you certainly have that capability if that's something that you would like to do. And if you're a little bit of a nerd like Logan and you like to really mess around with those investments to see that you're getting the most out of it, you absolutely can go ahead and do that as well. Do we have
Thanks,
any other
Mark.
questions? Oh, sorry, Akil,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I see we have a question. I think some of you had a question about what happens if your employee had a 401k from a previous payroll and they want to bring it over to the eBacon account. It's going to be a really easy process. Once they decide they want to move the funds over, they can email us at 401k@ebacon.com. We'll provide them with the proper forms where the money needs to go to, and then they would then need to talk to their previous provider to get the funds moved over. It's a nice and easy process. So yeah, the easy answer is email us at 401k@ebacon.com, and me and my team will guide your employees through the entire process. I also have seen there's a question about when auto enrollment will be done. The live date will be January 1st, 2025. That's when it's legally required to go on for any client who's legally needs it due to Secure Act 2.0. But in the coming weeks, like Logan said, you're going to get an email from our team explaining exactly what it means, how it works, and then what options you have within that legal framework.
And so even for clients who had a 401k plan with another provider that they bring it over to eBacon for us to manage and administer, we would still be able to apply whatever the auto enroll requirements need to be, either for that plan because it was started within the appropriate time frame, or if it's something that as a plan you as the employer wish to turn on. So we can absolutely facilitate that auto enrollment even for plans that weren't initiated by eBacon or that were started prior to when it became mandated that you have to have the auto enrollment set up for that particular plan. All of those are great questions, you guys. We really appreciate it. We've got a couple minutes left, so I don't want to turn anybody away. If they continue to have additional questions, by all means, go ahead and let us know.
I believe there was one last question for Logan about when the Secure Act 2.0 webinar is.
Yeah, super good question. So we'll release some more information. We're still trying to get some schedules aligned with folks, as well as dot our I's and cross our T's for some of the guidance from the government. But right now we're shooting to have that webinar towards middle to end of September.
And an email communication will go out inviting you to attend and sign up for those as soon as those dates are finalized as well.
Yep.
Perfect.
Akil, it looks like there's another question around the notices for automatic enrollment. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so if anybody is part of an automatic enrollment plan, the new process, which we'll be talking about in the coming weeks, we'll have a much better email process about what's going on and a couple of other signifiers for any client who currently has auto enrollment. They'll CSR and the implementation team will have sent out language about what the due date is and what those expectations are. And then once an employee has been enrolled, they will also get an email from our team letting them know that they've been enrolled and will they need to go to make any changes. If they want to keep the enrollment, they're great. They don't have to make any further action, but if they want to either opt out or if they want to make any changes, we'll have guidance for them as well.
Perfect.
Thanks, Q.
Okay. I think that's covered all of the questions that have come in so far. We will continue to be online until the bottom of the hour, till 10:30. But we have reached the conclusion of our scheduled content. We really appreciate the fact that you guys were able to join us. We hope that you found it informative and learned a little something about how your 401k works within the eBacon system and are excited about some of the upcoming changes that the team's working really hard on to be able to continue to add value to this program for all of you and your employees. By all means, if you'd like to stay in case any late breaking questions come on board, we're happy to have you. But for those of you that certainly have other things to do, we're again appreciate your time and we'll go ahead and let you go for the rest of the discussion. But we will stay on just in case anything else comes up. Oh, and something just came up. There's a question that talks about contribution maximums. Akil, can you answer?
I can take care of that. So it's going to depend on the age of your employee. Every year, the government sets a federal limit of how much an employee can contribute. For anybody who is under 50 years of age, that's $23,500. So anybody who is over age 50, then you will have about another 7,500 to contribute as well, making a contribution above $30,000. And so that's going to be your cap. If your company offers match, it necessarily won't be matching that amount based on the rules of the plan. And if you have any specific questions about how your plan would work with somebody who's maxing out your plan, that would be based on the specific details, and you can email us at 401k@ebacon.com. I also see a question about Roth versus regular 401k and what is the advantage and disadvantage. So that is going to be a very personal question. I'm going to talk about it in generics, but for most people, what we recommend they do is they talk to their tax professional because it impacts their taxation. The short and simple answer is, when do you want to be paying taxes on money? With a regular 401k, what it does is, if you put $5,000 in your 401k and it's traditional, your income for the year is reduced by $5,000 for federal tax income level purposes. And then once you take it out in 20 to the years, let's say it's gone to $100,000, whatever you pull out of that $100,000 is pulled out and counted as your normal income and taxed accordingly. With the Roth 401k and Roth contribution, that $5,000 goes in, but it doesn't reduce your income level for the year, so your taxes are paid on it. But then if you keep those funds in for more than 5 years and after you retire, so let's say in 20, 30 years, you've retired and now that money is $100,000, you can pull that money out tax-free and you won't have to pay any income taxes on it. So it's really going to depend on a person's individual tax situation and what makes the most sense for that person.
Perfect. Thanks, Akil. We also got a comment that there are some additional attendees at some of our locations that would like to be able to share some of this content with them. We're absolutely going to be sharing out the webinar for you. We are talking about the session was recorded, and so we're hopeful that we can share that as well. More additional information will come out from that, but at the very least, the webinar, the slide deck itself will be available to everybody that was in attendance. We'll email that out to you. And so that takes us right to the bottom of the hour, you guys. Thank you again so much for your time and attendance today. We appreciate it. We're excited about the upcoming webinars as well. I think they'll find them incredibly informative given the new compliance laws that are coming out that we're happy to share with you. And I hope you all have the rest of a great week and enjoy your holiday weekend. Thank you all for attending. Take care.